Welcome to the Echoes of Ihsan podcast. Today, we're going to be taking a journey through the Sunan Abu Dawud, specifically Book 11, which focuses on wills in Islamic law.
Wills.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Wills.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit dry, right?
Mm-hmm.
But trust me, this deep dive is anything but. We're going to uncover some truly fascinating insights into how Islam views wealth, family obligations, and even the impact our actions have after we're gone.
What's so captivating about this book is that it reveals how deeply intertwined Islamic teachings are on inheritance and charitable giving, with broader ethical and social values. It's not just about the legal mechanics of distributing wealth, but about fostering a sense of responsibility, fairness, and ultimately leaving a legacy of good deeds.
I'm already intrigued. Or so. Where do we even begin with this journey?
Right off the bat, the Sunan Abu Dawud emphasizes the importance of putting things in writing. There's a hadith where the Prophet Muhammad strongly advises Muslims, especially those with assets, to not let 2 nights pass without having their will written down.
2 nights. That seems incredibly urgent. It makes you wonder what the reasoning behind such a strong recommendation might be.
Imagine this. A family is grieving the loss of a loved one. Emotions are raw, and suddenly, they're faced with the daunting task of dividing their loved one's possessions without a clear roadmap. Disagreements and disputes are almost inevitable by having a written will. You're essentially offering your family a guide, minimizing potential conflict during an already difficult time. It's an act of compassion, not just for yourself, but for the loved ones you leave behind.
That's a really beautiful way to frame it. It's not just about the legalities, but about easing the burden on your family during a time of grief. It really underscores how deeply personal this topic is. But the Sunan Abu Dawud doesn't stop at just encouraging writing wills. It also delves into what you can and cannot include in them. For instance, there's a hadith where the Prophet advises against bequeathing more than 1/3 of one's wealth.
That's right. And there's also the story of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, a companion of the Prophet, who wanted to leave a significant portion of his wealth to charity, but was advised against it. These instances raise an interesting question about balancing individual desires with communal well-being.
It seems like there's a tension there, right? On one hand, you want to be generous and give back to the community, but on the other hand, you also have a responsibility to ensure the well-being of your family.
Exactly. Islam places a strong emphasis on both taking care of one's family and giving to those in need. But the limitations on bequests highlight a crucial principle. Your heirs have rights too. You can't neglect their needs in the pursuit of maximizing charitable giving. It's about finding a delicate balance, being generous while ensuring your family is provided for. Imagine it as a scale, individual desires on one side and family needs on the other. You're striving to keep the scale balanced, not tipping too far in either direction.
That analogy really resonates. It's not about an either scenario. It's about carefully considering both sides and finding that point of equilibrium.
Precisely. And this emphasis on balance also sheds light on another fascinating aspect of Islamic teachings on charitable giving. The idea that giving during your lifetime might actually be more rewarding than leaving it all for a deathbed bequest.
Now that's really intriguing. Is it simply about the timing? Or is there something deeper at play?
It's certainly partly about the timing, but it also delves into the realm of intentions and sincerity. Imagine these 2 scenarios. In the first, you're on your deathbed, realizing that your time in this world is coming to an end. It's easy to feel a sense of urgency, a desire to make amends for any past wrongdoings, or perhaps even a fear of what lies ahead in the afterlife. In that state, giving to charity can almost feel like a transaction, a way to secure a better place in the hereafter.
It almost feels like a last-minute attempt to tip the scales in your favor, so to speak.
Exactly. Now, contrast that with the second scenario. You're alive, healthy, and enjoying the fruits of your labor. You decide to give a portion of your wealth to those in need, even though you could easily hold on to it. There's no sense of desperation or urgency here. It's a pure act of generosity, stemming from a deep-seated belief in helping others and sharing your blessings.
There's a certain level of selflessness in that act that resonates deeply. You're not clinging to your possessions or driven by fear. You're choosing to give freely because it aligns with your values and beliefs.
Precisely. And the Sunan Abu Dawud reinforces this idea through multiple hadiths that stress the greater reward associated with giving during your lifetime. It suggests that when you give while you're still in position to enjoy your wealth, it reflects a deeper level of sincerity and detachment from worldly possessions. It's a powerful message, isn't it?
It truly is. It prompts a deeper reflection on our own motivations for giving. and challenges us to approach charity with a purer heart, free from ulterior motives. But aside from the limit on the overall amount you can bequeath, I'm curious if there are any specific things. The Sunan Abu Dawud explicitly prohibits you from including in your will.
Yes, there is one that stands out. Bequeathing to your direct heirs. The Prophet Muhammad clearly stated that no bequest should be made to someone already entitled to a share of your inheritance through the Islamic inheritance system.
That's interesting. It seems counterintuitive at first. Wouldn't you want the freedom to leave a larger share to a specific child if you so desired? What's the logic behind that restriction?
It all ties back to the inherent fairness and structure of the Islamic inheritance system, which is meticulously outlined in the Quran. This system designates specific shares of your wealth to be distributed among your family members, aiming to prevent disputes and ensure that everyone receives their due. Now, imagine if you could bypass this system. By simply adding bequests to your will, it would create opportunities for favoritism, potentially leading to conflict and resentment among family members.
So by prohibiting bequest to heirs, Islam is essentially safeguarding the integrity of the inheritance system itself, reinforcing its objective of equitable distribution, and minimizing the potential for discord among family members.
Exactly. It's a preventative measure designed to uphold fairness and harmony within families. It speaks to the profound foresight and wisdom embedded within Islamic teachings. But what about those who might be more vulnerable, those who don't have the same level of protection within the family structure, like orphans? How does the Sunan Abu Dawud address their care and the management of their property?
That's a really important question, and I'm particularly interested in how the Sunan Abu Dawud approaches the potential complexities of handling an orphan's wealth.
This is where it gets truly fascinating, because we witness an evolution in understanding and approach. Within the Sunan Abu Dawud and other Islamic texts, early on, there is a heavy emphasis on strict separation between the guardian's property and the orphan's property. Imagine it as building a metaphorical wall between the two. This stemmed from a deep-seated concern about preventing any misuse or exploitation of the orphan's wealth.
So it was about creating a clear boundary to ensure that the orphan's inheritance remained untouched and protected. It sounds like a very cautious approach, prioritizing the safeguarding of assets above all else.
Exactly. But as time progressed and interpretations evolved, there was a gradual shift toward a more integrated and nuanced approach. We see this reflected in verses of the Quran. In various hadiths, the focus shifts from mere separation to actively utilizing the orphan's property for their benefit, allowing guardians to use some of it for their own needs, but always with a strong emphasis on responsibility and avoiding lavish spending.
So it moved away from simply safeguarding the assets to actively using them to improve the orphan's life. But how do you determine what constitutes responsible spending in such a situation? Are there any specific guidelines to prevent abuse or ensure the guardian's actions are truly in the best interests of the orphan?
That's a crucial question, and Islamic scholarship has dedicated a great deal of thought to establishing those guidelines. The general principle is that the guardian should prioritize the orphan's needs above their own and avoid any expenditure that could be considered extravagant or unnecessary. It's about striking a balance between utilizing the orphan's wealth to improve their lives and ensuring that the principal amount is preserved for their future.
It sounds like a delicate balancing act, requiring a great deal of wisdom and integrity on the part of the guardian. It's not just about avoiding outright theft or misuse. It's about making thoughtful decisions that prioritize the orphan's well-being in both the present and the future.
Precisely. And there's a beautiful hadith that captures this sentiment perfectly. The Prophet Muhammad said, "The best thing to do for orphans is what is for their good. If you mix your affairs with theirs, they are your brethren." It speaks to the importance of integrating orphans into the family and community, treating them not as separate entities, but as beloved members deserving of care and compassion.
That's a truly heartwarming perspective. It highlights the importance of fostering a sense of belonging and connection, ensuring that orphans feel loved and supported within the community. It's not just about financial management. It's about creating a nurturing and inclusive environment.
Absolutely. But the Sunan Abu Dawud also doesn't shy away from addressing the consequences of failing to uphold this responsibility. There are hadiths that list consuming the property of orphans and causing injury through wills as grave sins that lead to hellfire.
Those hadiths certainly paint a stark picture of the severity with which Islam views the exploitation of vulnerable individuals like orphans. It's a clear message that mishandling an orphan's property carries severe consequences, both in this life and the next. It underscores the immense responsibility entrusted to those who are tasked with their care.
Indeed, it emphasizes the importance of integrity and ethical conduct, particularly when dealing with the wealth of those who are unable to protect their own interests. This concern for the vulnerable extends even beyond this life. In fact, the Sunan Abu Dawud goes into detail about how even the deceased's property should be handled with respect and care.
Now that you mention it, I'm reminded of the story about Musab ibn Umar's simple shroud. It's a brief but powerful anecdote that seems to speak volumes about Islamic teachings on respecting property rights, even in death.
It's a poignant example. When Musab ibn Umar, a companion of the Prophet, was killed in battle, he only had a simple, coarse cloth to serve as his shroud. It wasn't enough to cover his entire body.
Oh.
The Prophet, seeing this, instructed those preparing his body to cover his head with the cloth and to use some rushes over his feet. This act, while seemingly small, demonstrates that even in death, an individual's property rights are respected.
It's a testament to the depth and detail of Islamic teachings on property rights. Even a simple shroud, belonging to someone who is no longer alive, is treated with respect and handled in a way that honors the deceased's dignity. It highlights the importance of responsible stewardship, extending even beyond the realm of the living.
Exactly. It's a beautiful illustration of how Islamic principles extend to every aspect of life, and even beyond. It's about upholding ethical conduct and respecting rights, even when dealing with the deceased. It underscores the interconnectedness of life, death, and the enduring importance of treating all things, material or otherwise, with respect and care. It's remarkable how even in death, Islamic teachings guide us toward ethical conduct, emphasizing respect and responsibility. And this meticulous attention to detail extends to other intriguing scenarios as well. For instance, what happens when you donate something, and later, through inheritance, you end up owning it again? Does the initial act of charity still hold its value?
That's a really interesting question. It makes you wonder about the nature of charitable giving and whether the reward is tied to the act itself or to the ongoing benefit it provides.
The Sunan Abu Dawud offers a compelling answer through a specific story. A woman donated a slave girl to her mother, but when her mother passed away, she inherited the slave girl back through her mother's will. Now, the woman was concerned that she wouldn't receive the full reward for her initial act of charity, since she now owned the slave girl again.
It's understandable that she would have that concern. After all, the material benefit, the ownership of the slave girl, had reverted back to her. It raises the question of whether the initial act of generosity was somehow diminished by this turn of events.
But the Prophet reassured her, explaining that her reward for the initial act of charity was already secured. The fact that the ownership reverted back to her through inheritance didn't negate her previous good deed.
That's a reassuring perspective. It suggests that the act of giving, the intention behind it, is what truly matters. Even if circumstances change, the initial generosity isn't nullified. It highlights the importance of focusing on the purity of our intentions when engaging in acts of charity.
Precisely. It's a beautiful illustration of how Islam values both the outward action and the inner intention, and it speaks to the enduring impact of our good deeds, even if the material aspects of those deeds don't persist in the long run. But speaking of lasting impact, our journey through the Sunan Abu Dawud brings us to a truly remarkable concept: waqf, or religious endowments.
Ah, yes. The concept of waqf. I've heard of it before, but I must confess, I don't fully grasp the intricacies. I know it involves dedicating property for charitable or religious purposes, but I'm curious about the specifics and why it's considered such a significant act in Islam.
The story of Umar ibn al-Khattab, one of the Prophet's close companions, beautifully illustrates the concept of waqf. Umar had acquired some valuable land and sought the Prophet's advice on what to do with it.
Okay.
The Prophet advised him to dedicate it as waqf, essentially creating a charitable trust, where the property itself remains intact, but the proceeds generated from it are used for designated charitable causes.
So it's like setting up a system where the original asset continues to generate benefits for the community in perpetuity. It's a way to ensure that your wealth continues to make a positive impact long after you're gone. But what kind of causes would typically be supported by a waqf?
The possibilities are vast.
Umar, following the Prophet's advice, established a waqf that benefited a wide range of people: the poor, travelers passing through Medina, and even those working on the land itself. Historically, waqf has been used to fund mosques, schools, hospitals, wells for providing water, and various other projects that benefit society as a whole.
Wow.
It's a testament to the enduring power of generosity and the potential for one's wealth to create a ripple effect of positive change that extends far beyond one's lifetime.
It's a truly inspiring concept, but I'm also curious about the practicalities. Are there specific rules governing how Waqf property can be managed and used, after all? You want to ensure that the original intention, the charitable purpose, is preserved and effectively carried out. Absolutely. Islamic law provides detailed guidelines to ensure the integrity and sustainability of Waqf. The most fundamental principle is that the property dedicated as Waqf remains inviolable. It cannot be sold, inherited, or repurposed for any other use.
So the original asset, the land or building, remains dedicated to that charitable purpose forever.
Precisely. However, the proceeds generated from the property, whether it's rent from a building or profits from agricultural land, can be used for the designated charitable causes. This ensures that the Waqf remains a dynamic and beneficial entity, continuously generating positive impact.
It sounds like a brilliantly designed system. It ensures the preservation of the original asset, while also enabling its proceeds to be utilized for good. It's a testament to the meticulous foresight and wisdom embedded within Islamic teachings on financial management and charitable giving.
It is indeed. And there's even an allowance for those managing the Waqf, the individuals entrusted with its administration, to utilize a reasonable portion of the proceeds for their own needs. This is to ensure that the individuals responsible for managing the Waqf are also taken care of, preventing any temptation to misuse the funds out of necessity.
That makes perfect sense. It's about creating a system that's both ethical and sustainable, ensuring the well-being of those involved in its administration, while also maximizing the benefit it provides to the intended beneficiaries.
Exactly. It's a nuanced approach that takes into account both the practicalities of management and the overarching goal of generating lasting charitable impact. But the Sunan Abu Dawud doesn't stop at Waqf. When it comes to discussing the idea of leaving a legacy of good deeds, there's a fascinating hadith that mentions 3 specific actions that continue to benefit a person even after death.
Oh, that sounds intriguing. What are these 3 actions that transcend the boundaries of our earthly existence and continue to generate rewards even after we're gone?
The first, as we've already discussed, is perpetual charity, exemplified by the concept of Waqf. The second is beneficial knowledge, the act of sharing knowledge that helps others grow, spiritually, intellectually, or practically.
So our legacy isn't just about the material wealth we leave behind. It's also about the knowledge and wisdom we impart to others, the positive impact we have on their lives through education and guidance.
Precisely. Imagine a scholar who dedicates their life to teaching, sharing their knowledge with countless students, or a writer whose words inspire and uplift generations of readers. The benefits of their actions continue to ripple outward long after they are gone.
It's a beautiful concept. It reminds us that true wealth isn't just about material possessions, but about the positive contributions we make to the world, the intellectual and spiritual nourishment we offer to others. And what about the third action? What legacy can our children provide even after our passing?
The third action mentioned in the hadith is having pious children who pray for you. Imagine children who, instilled with strong moral values and a deep connection to their faith, remember their parents in their prayers even after they've passed on. Their prayers become a source of ongoing spiritual benefit for their parents, a testament to the enduring bond between parent and child, transcending even the boundaries of life and death.
It highlights the profound interconnectedness of family and the enduring impact we have on future generations. The values we instill in our children, the love and guidance we offer, can continue to bear fruit long after we're gone. But this raises another question in my mind. What about those who might not have made specific provisions for charitable giving during their lifetime? Is there any way for them to benefit from good deeds after they've passed on?
That's a compassionate question, and the Sunan Abu Dawud provides a reassuring answer. It contains several hadiths that affirm the permissibility of giving charity on behalf of deceased relatives who might not have explicitly instructed it during their lifetime.
So even if someone wasn't able to engage in charitable giving while they were alive, their loved ones can step in and perform those acts of generosity on their behalf. It's a beautiful act of kindness and a testament to the enduring strength of familial bonds.
Exactly. It's about honoring their memory and ensuring that they too can benefit from the rewards of good deeds, even after they're gone. There's a particularly touching story in the Sunan Abu Dawud where a woman approaches the Prophet, distressed because her mother had passed away suddenly. Without fulfilling her charitable intentions, she asks the Prophet if she could give charity on her mother's behalf, hoping to fulfill those unfulfilled wishes.
It's a heart-wrenching scenario. To feel that a loved one's good intentions were cut short by their sudden passing. I'm eager to hear how the Prophet responds to this woman's plea.
The Prophet's response is both simple and profound. He replies, yes, give charity on her behalf.
It's a beautiful testament to the compassionate nature of Islamic teachings. It offers a way to honor the memory of those who have passed on, to ensure that their good intentions are fulfilled, and to extend the benefits of charitable giving even beyond the realm of the living.
It's a powerful reminder that our connections to our loved ones transcend physical death, and it highlights the interconnectedness of the community in Islam, where acts of kindness and generosity can ripple outward, touching even those who are no longer with us. But what about those outside the Muslim community? Would this principle extend to non-Muslims as well?
That's a really thought-provoking question. Can charitable acts performed by Muslims benefit deceased non-Muslims? I'm curious to learn if the Sunan Abu Dawud addresses this specific scenario.
It does. There's a specific hadith that addresses this question directly. The Prophet Muhammad stated that acts of charity or pilgrimage done on behalf of a deceased non-Muslim do not benefit them.
So there's a clear distinction drawn there. It seems to suggest that the spiritual benefits of such actions are limited to those within the Muslim faith.
It's important to understand that this is based on Islamic theological understanding. It reflects specific beliefs about the afterlife and the nature of spiritual benefit. It's not meant to diminish the inherent value or sincerity of the act itself, but rather to clarify the scope of its impact within the framework of Islamic beliefs.
That clarifies the context perfectly. It's important to acknowledge the theological underpinnings of such teachings and understand them within their specific framework.
Precisely. It's about appreciating the nuances of religious doctrines and approaching them with respect and understanding. But our exploration of the Sunan Abu Dawud wouldn't be complete without addressing one final crucial topic: debt and inheritance.
Yes, the intersection of debt and inheritance. It's a topic fraught with potential complexity, especially when a deceased person leaves behind outstanding debts. I'm eager to learn how the Sunan Abu Dawud navigates this delicate issue.
The Sunan Abu Dawud offers a compelling example. Through the story of Jabir ibn Abdullah, a companion of the Prophet, who found himself burdened with a substantial debt inherited from his father, he attempted to negotiate with the creditor, seeking more time to repay the debt, but the creditor was unyielding in his demands.
It's a scenario that many can relate to, the daunting prospect of inheriting a financial burden that feels overwhelming. It highlights the potential for debt to create hardship and strain relationships, particularly during times of grief. What steps did Jabir ibn Abdullah take to address this difficult situation?
In desperation, Jabir turned to the Prophet Muhammad for help, hoping that he could intervene and find a resolution.
It's a testament to the deep trust and respect that the companions had for the Prophet, seeing him not just as a spiritual leader, but also as a source of guidance and support in their daily lives. What was the Prophet's response to Jabir's plea for help?
The Prophet, demonstrating his compassionate nature and his commitment to justice, personally went to the creditor and attempted to persuade him to show leniency. He appealed to the creditor's sense of compassion, highlighting Jabir's dire circumstances and the burden he had inherited. He even suggested alternative forms of repayment, hoping to find a solution that would be more manageable for Jabir.
It's remarkable to see the Prophet taking such a proactive role, advocating for someone struggling with a difficult financial situation. It speaks volumes about his character and his commitment to ensuring fairness and compassion in all dealings. But what was the outcome of the Prophet's intervention? Was he successful in persuading the creditor to show leniency?
The Hadith doesn't explicitly state the final outcome, but it highlights a crucial principle in Islamic finance: the importance of seeking reconciliation and fairness in all dealings, particularly when it comes to debt. It emphasizes that creditors should be willing to work with debtors facing hardship, and that finding a solution that benefits both parties is the ideal outcome.
It's a powerful message that transcends the specific context of this story. It's a reminder that financial matters should be approached with a sense of compassion and understanding, not just strict adherence to contractual obligations. It's about recognizing the human element in every transaction and striving for justice and fairness in all our dealings.
Exactly. It's about fostering a spirit of cooperation and empathy, particularly when dealing with situations involving financial hardship. It's about recognizing that sometimes the most ethical approach requires flexibility and a willingness to find solutions that benefit all parties involved.
As we wrap up our deep dive into the Sunan Abu Dawud's Book 11 on wills, I'm struck by the sheer depth and breadth of what we've uncovered. We've delved into the intricacies of Islamic inheritance law, explored profound insights into ethical financial management, and even contemplated the enduring impact of our actions on both ourselves and the world around us. It's been a truly enriching journey.
It's been a privilege to embark on this exploration with you. And as we reach the end of our journey through this particular book of the Sunan Abu Dawud, I'm left with a sense of awe at the wisdom and foresight embedded within these teachings. They offer a timeless guide for navigating the complexities of wealth, inheritance, and our responsibilities to others, encouraging us to be mindful, compassionate, and intentional in all our dealings.
I wholeheartedly agree. What stands out to me most is the emphasis on balance. That permeates these teachings. We see it in the limitations on bequests, ensuring that both individual desires and family obligations are considered. We see it in the guidelines for managing orphans' property, striking a balance between safeguarding assets and utilizing them for the orphan's well-being. And we see it in the concept of WAC, where the original endowment is preserved. While its proceeds are used to generate ongoing benefit for the community, it's a constant reminder that our actions have ripple effects, impacting not just ourselves, but also those around us, and even future generations.
That's a beautiful observation, and it speaks to a central theme that runs throughout the Sunan Abu Dawud and Islamic teachings in general, the interconnectedness of our actions and the enduring impact they have. It's not just about individual rights and obligations. It's about recognizing that we're part of a larger web of relationships and that our choices have consequences that extend far beyond our immediate sphere. This sense of interconnectedness is palpable in the emphasis on fulfilling family obligations, the care and protection of orphans, the establishment of waqf as a form of perpetual charity, and even the permissibility of giving charity on behalf of deceased relatives. It's a tapestry woven with threads of compassion, responsibility, and a deep awareness of our interconnectedness as human beings.
That's such a powerful image, a tapestry woven with threads of compassion and responsibility. It really captures the essence of what we've been exploring. And it's not just about outward actions, it's also about cultivating a certain mindset, a way of approaching wealth and our responsibilities to others, with sincerity, integrity, and a genuine desire to do good. The Sunan Abu Dawud constantly reminds us to check our motivations, to ensure that our actions are aligned with a higher purpose.
Precisely. It's about cultivating an inner awareness, a consciousness that guides our choices and shapes our interactions with the world around us. This emphasis on intention is particularly striking when we consider the concept of giving charity while alive and healthy, being considered superior to leaving it all for a deathbed bequest. It speaks to the purity of intention, the act of giving freely and generously, without any sense of urgency or desperation. It's about embodying the spirit of generosity in our daily lives, not just as a last-minute attempt to secure a better place in the hereafter.
It's a profound message that challenges us to move beyond self-interest and embrace a more expansive view of our role in the world. And I think this message is incredibly relevant in today's society, where we're often bombarded with messages of individualism and material accumulation. The teachings we've explored in the Sunan Abu Dawud offer a powerful counter-narrative, reminding us that true fulfillment comes from connecting with something larger than ourselves, from recognizing our interconnectedness, and contributing to the well-being of others.
I couldn't agree more. These teachings provide a framework for living a life of meaning and purpose, a life that transcends the pursuit of personal gain and embraces a broader vision of shared prosperity and collective well-being. They remind us that we're not isolated individuals, but rather integral parts of a vibrant, interconnected tapestry of life.
And this interconnectedness extends even beyond the boundaries of our earthly existence. The concept of actions that continue to benefit a person after death, such as perpetual charity through waqf, the sharing of beneficial knowledge, and having pious children who pray for you, speaks to the enduring impact we can have on the world. It's a testament to the power of our choices and the legacy we leave behind.
It's truly inspiring to contemplate the ripple effects of our actions, the ways in which our choices can continue to shape the world even after we're gone. It's a reminder that our lives have meaning and purpose, that we have the capacity to make a difference, not just in our own time, but also for generations to come.
This deep dive into the Sunan Abu Dawud has been an incredible journey of discovery. It's deepened my understanding of Islamic teachings on inheritance and charitable giving, and it's inspired me to reflect on my own choices and the kind of legacy I want to leave behind. I'm left with a profound sense of gratitude for the wisdom contained within these teachings and a renewed commitment to living a life that reflects these values of compassion, responsibility, and interconnectedness.
And that's the most beautiful takeaway from our exploration. It's not just about acquiring knowledge, but about allowing that knowledge to transform us, to inspire us to live more meaningful and fulfilling lives.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through the Sunan Abu Dawud. We hope you found it as enlightening and enriching as we have. And until next time, may your pursuit of knowledge and good deeds continue to illuminate your path